Divorce, betrayal, and manipulation. How I overcame it all and regained my life and self-esteem. I never imagined life could teach me such harsh lessons so silently. Everything seemed predictable and safe, almost perfect. I woke up early, drank my coffee, went to work, and came home trying to keep my marriage in balance. Every gesture, every smile, every conversation felt natural, but I didn't realize I was walking an emotional tightrope. I'd always been reserved and meticulous, someone who values stability and harmony, and I believed that maintaining the peace was enough to ensure my happiness and my future. Small arguments were resolved quickly, transformed into laughter or gestures of affection, and I didn't see that behind this facade lay subtle warning signs I ignored. My name is Rogerio, and all of this happened 5 years ago, when I was at the peak of my career. At that time, I was trying to balance my professional life with my marriage, dedicating myself to building a stable life, never imagining that my trust could be exploited. Camilla, my wife, was always charming, persuasive, and intense, while I sought understanding, balance, and harmony. At the time, I trusted her completely and believed we were building something solid, based on respect and partnership. Looking back, I realized that apparent stability was an illusion and that my blind trust left me vulnerable. At first, everything seemed natural. Small talk, small arguments, quick reconciliations, and gestures of affection led me to believe we were fine. But small contradictions began to emerge, sudden mood swings and brief absences that I attributed to routine or fatigue. I tried to justify every detail to myself, maintaining the illusion of normalcy. Every gesture, every smile from Camilla could have a different intention than I believed. But my vision was clouded by the desire to believe everything was under control. This seemingly calm initial phase was like walking on thin ice. It seemed firm, but could shatter at any moment. I believed that maintaining the peace was enough to protect the marriage and my emotional life, without realizing that my attempt at harmony was fragile and superficial. Camilla's every gesture, every sweet word, could hide manipulative intentions. I didn't yet know that my life was about to turn into an emotional, legal, and psychological battle that would test my patience, intelligence, and dignity. What seemed like stability was actually a calm before the storm. I hadn't yet realized that my blind trust and my need to maintain peace would leave me vulnerable. It was a period of silent preparation for the coming confrontation, where every decision, every gesture, and every word would become weapons in a war I never imagined I would face. I was about to discover strengths I never knew I possessed, and the experience would transform my life forever. As time passed, I began to notice small changes in Camilla's behavior. She began making important decisions without consulting me, disappearing without plausible explanations, and creating barriers to conversations about our future. At first, I tried to ignore it, attributing it all to work stress or a grueling routine. But a growing sense of unease began to erode my peace. Every detail I'd previously considered insignificant began to bother me, and I began to notice subtle patterns that indicated something was deeply wrong. The uneasiness was constant, as if my intuition were trying to alert me to a danger I didn't yet fully understand. The turning point came through Bruno, a mutual acquaintance. He approached me cautiously and hesitated before revealing life-changing information. Between measured words and worried looks, he revealed that Camilla and Rafael, her lover, were planning to use the divorce to gain financial advantage. The feeling of shock and betrayal was immediate and overwhelming. I felt deceived, vulnerable, and powerless, but I knew that reacting impulsively would be disastrous. I needed a silent strategy that would allow me to protect my assets, my dignity, and my emotional health without revealing my awareness of the plan. A mixture of disbelief, anger, and pain consumed me in the first few days. I relived every gesture, every word, and every smile Camilla shared, trying to fit the pieces of the puzzle together. It was difficult to accept that my trust had been manipulated in such a cold and calculating way. Every detail of our relationship seemed to take on new meaning, and I realized that it wasn't enough to react emotionally. It was necessary to act with intelligence, patience, and precision. I needed to protect myself, learn to resist provocations, and transform my pain into strategic strength. The battle unfolding wasn't just financial, it involved control, pride, and self-esteem. Camilla's every action was an attempt at manipulation, and I needed to transform it into fuel for my own silent defense strategy. I needed to maintain my composure, clarity, and rationality, even when I felt the emotional ground disappearing from under my feet. This period was the beginning of a profound learning experience about boundaries, dignity, and resilience. It was at that moment that I realized I wasn't alone. My mother, Naid, became my emotional rock. She not only supported me with practical advice, but also reminded me of the importance of preserving my integrity and self-esteem. With her wisdom, patience, and unwavering loyalty, she helped me understand that I deserved respect and that there were ways to deal with the situation intelligently. Her presence was crucial in helping me find the strength to plan my next steps, protecting my life and mind from the manipulations being orchestrated against me. When I realized my wife was being manipulative and cold, my first reaction was anger and frustration, but I soon realized that impulsiveness would be disastrous. Camilla was testing my limits, using Raphael as emotional and psychological reinforcement to pressure and intimidate me. I needed to act silently, firmly, and strategically, without letting on that I knew her plans. Every gesture, every word, every action needed to be carefully considered, as if I were moving pieces on a chessboard. This silent battle required extreme attention, patience, and emotional intelligence, because any mistake could be exploited, affecting not only my assets, but also my own emotional stability. The legal trust I had created acted as an invisible shield. While Camilla believed she could surprise me, my assets were protected beyond the reach of any legal maneuver she might attempt. Each step in the process required extreme care, document review, meetings with lawyers, and attention to technical details. Everything had to be done without her noticing my actions. With each small, silent victory, I felt a growing sense of control and security, and I realized that my patience and planning were more powerful than any direct confrontation could ever be. At the same time, Camilla's attempts at emotional manipulation intensified. Each provocation, each insinuation, each calculated gesture challenged my patience. Initially, I felt anxious and vulnerable, but gradually I realized I was developing emotional resilience. I learned to observe without reacting, to understand the intentions behind each action, and to transform that energy into strength for my own silent strategy. Each frustrated provocation strengthened me, showing me that I could face the war without losing my composure or dignity. There were moments of near despair. I even doubted myself, wondering if I could remain calm and protect everything I had built. But it was precisely in these moments of vulnerability that I discovered strengths I didn't know I possessed. I learned to rationalize under pressure, to carefully plan my moves, and to realize that my patience was a powerful weapon, capable of neutralizing Camilla and Raphael's attempts at manipulation. Every step forward, no matter how small, bolstered my confidence and reminded me that I could survive the approaching emotional storm. This phase became a true journey of self-discovery. I realized I underestimated my own resilience, my ability to act intelligently in the face of pain and injustice. I learned that true strength lies not in aggression or impulsiveness, but in patience, clarity, and the determination to maintain dignity. Each step in this psychological warfare transformed me, and little by little, I felt myself growing emotionally and strategically, ready to face not only Camilla and Raphael's manipulation, but any challenge life decided to throw at me. Despite the precautions and legal protection, the emotional toll of the situation began to consume me. Each day was a silent battle between remaining calm and succumbing to frustration, anger, and sadness. I felt isolated, even with the support of my mother Naid, who was always by my side, offering advice and a sensitive ear. Camilla and Raphael's provocations intensified, now directed not only at my assets, but also at my reputation, my psyche, and my self-esteem. The emotional toll was constant, and at times it felt like my strength was reaching its limit. There were moments when I almost gave up, when I thought it might be easier to give in to manipulation or allow them to achieve their goals. The feeling of helplessness was overwhelming, and doubt corroded my clarity of thought. But it was precisely in those moments that I realized the importance of not giving in. The fear and pain transformed into a warning. If I gave up, I would be losing not only my possessions, but also my dignity and self-esteem. With this understanding, I began to reclaim strength I didn't know I possessed, rebuilding my resolve from what seemed to be my weakest point. The turning point came when I realized that overcoming this challenge wouldn't just depend on protecting my assets or winning over Camilla and Raphael materially. The real battle was internal, maintaining calm, clarity, and emotional integrity. I needed to transform anger and pain into strategic discipline and emotional resilience. It was at that moment that I began to see myself as someone capable of overcoming adversity without losing my dignity, realizing that my intelligence and patience were my greatest weapons, more effective than any direct confrontation could be. I began structuring my days to preserve my mental and emotional health. I alternated between moments of work focus, legal planning, and personal reflection, avoiding being swayed by provocations or the urge to react impulsively. Little by little, I noticed changes in myself, more confident decision-making, clearer analysis, and growing emotional resilience. Each small step forward strengthened my confidence and demonstrated that I could face psychological warfare without losing my humanity. In this process, I realized that my mother, Need, was not only an emotional support, but also a source of practical wisdom. Her words, guidance, and constant presence were crucial in helping me maintain the right perspective. She helped me understand that facing adversity didn't mean acting with anger or resentment, but with strategy, patience, and confidence in my own abilities. It was at this point that I began to feel that overcoming, though difficult, was possible, and that each step I took brought me closer to regaining my inner peace. As time passed, I began to see the results of my silent efforts. The legal trust and my strategic planning had protected all my assets, but the greatest achievement was internal, a sense of control, clarity, and emotional resilience. Every provocation from Camila and Raphael, which had previously caused me anxiety and fear, now seemed like a failed attempt to shake me. I had learned to transform pain and frustration into discipline and self-control, and this became my greatest victory. The transformation wasn't miraculous, but it was concrete. I discovered I could face adversity without losing my dignity, my patience, or my humanity. Every step I took, every decision I made with intelligence and calm made me realize that true achievement isn't about defeating others, but about conquering yourself. My self-esteem, previously shaken, was solidly rebuilt, and the feeling of emotional empowerment gave me the strength to move forward, even in the face of uncertainty and constant provocation. Furthermore, I learned to value the connections that truly matter. The presence of my mother, Nade, the discreet support of trusted people, and even the lessons learned from Camilla and Raphael's actions showed me who was on my side and who wasn't worthy of my time or trust. This realization reinforced my ability to create healthy boundaries, protect my emotional life, and prioritize my own well-being without guilt or regret. Looking back today, I realized that the psychological warfare I faced was also a process of inner growth. Each challenge forced me to develop patience, emotional intelligence, and self-confidence. I learned to react strategically, to think before acting, and to remain calm even when everything seemed to be falling apart. This experience taught me that overcoming obstacles is possible when you combine courage, discipline, and clarity of purpose, even when faced with manipulative people or emotionally draining situations. I know that not all wounds are completely healed and that the experience has left its mark, but today I can confidently say that I won. I won not because I destroyed my adversaries, but because I regained my peace, my clarity, and my self-esteem. I learned that true strength lies not in impulsiveness or aggression, but in patience, planning, and resilience. And it is this strength that sustains me, that gives me confidence, and that continues to guide my life. After going through the most difficult times, I realized that true overcoming goes far beyond protecting possessions or winning external battles. It begins within ourselves, in the ability to transform pain into learning and frustration into strength. Each challenge I faced taught me something valuable about limits, resilience, and self-confidence. I discovered that the power to change my reality doesn't depend on the actions of others, but on how I choose to react to adversity. And this brought me a profound sense of emotional freedom. The motivation to keep going came from realizing that I was capable of rebuilding myself, even when it seemed like all was lost. I learned to value myself, to trust my own emotional intelligence, and to recognize my worth. Each small victory, whether it was keeping calm in the face of provocation, making strategic decisions, or strengthening my self-esteem, became fuel to keep going. Today, I see that my strength lies not only in what I've achieved, but in how I've remained honest and true to my values. The process of overcoming grief showed me the importance of setting clear boundaries and prioritizing my own well-being. I realized that manipulative people or difficult situations can test our patience and trust, but they can never determine who we are or our worth. This learning became a life lesson. Facing adversity with clarity, strategy, and courage not only protects, but also profoundly transforms. And that's exactly what motivated me to keep going when everything seemed to be falling apart. Today, I feel a continued motivation to apply these lessons to all aspects of my life. This experience has taught me that every challenge can be an opportunity for growth, and that even in the face of manipulation, betrayal, or injustice, it's possible to rise up with dignity and emotional intelligence. I've learned to observe the world with a more attentive eye, to trust my decisions, and to not allow anyone to take away my peace or self-esteem. What began as a silent and painful battle has transformed into a journey of empowerment and self-discovery. Today, I not only survived the storm, but I emerged stronger, more aware, and more motivated to build the life I want. I know challenges will continue to arise, but I now have the inner tools, courage, and clarity to face them. This experience has shown me that overcoming obstacles is real, possible, and concrete, and that each obstacle overcome is also a step toward personal freedom and happiness.